The alien princess protected the human princess, defying her own empire. Its walls glimmered with a soft light that seemed alive, and the floors shimmered as if holding tiny stars beneath their surface. To most, it was a symbol of the Empire's power, but to Elara, it felt like a cage. She had grown up with rules, ceremonies, and expectations that never allowed her to think freely. Every step she took was measured, every word she spoke had meaning, and every glance she gave could be read as loyalty or betrayal. Yet for all the control and grandeur, Elara felt something missing. She had seen the Empire's strength, its intelligence, its amazing inventions, but she had never seen anything like humans. Not closely, anyway. Humans were said to be unpredictable, fragile, and emotional, but Elara had heard whispers, stories told quietly by the palace servants, tales of humans' courage and cleverness. She could not help but wonder if these stories were true. It was during one routine check of the palace's communications hub that she discovered something that made her heart skip. Hidden messages flickered across one of the smaller screens, messages meant to be unseen by anyone outside the Emperor's most trusted advisors. The words were clear: "Human princess to be contained, secure her safely for Empire's advantage." Elara froze, her mind raced. The human princess, they meant Leora. Leora, who was to arrive any day now for diplomatic talks between Earth and Vyrlia. She had been told to receive the princess warmly, to make her feel welcome. But here, in these secret messages, a plan was unfolding that no official ceremony had ever hinted at. Some within the Empire wanted to control Leora, not harm her, at least not physically, but to hold her as a bargaining tool. Elara's hand tightened around the edge of the console. She knew what she had to do. She had to protect Leora. Not because it was ordered, not because it was safe, but because it was right. And perhaps because, deep down, Elara wanted to see humans for herself, not as threats, but as people. The next day, the human delegation arrived. Their shuttle gleamed under Vyrlia's twin suns, a small but sturdy craft that seemed fragile compared to the Empire's own massive ships. Leora stepped out, her golden hair shining like sunlight, her blue eyes wide with curiosity and a hint of worry. She looked around, taking in the strange architecture, the hovering vehicles, and the aliens in long robes who watched her with careful interest. Elara was among those waiting to greet her. She stepped forward, bowing politely. "Welcome to Vyrlia, Princess Leora," she said. Her voice was calm, steady, and kind. Leora smiled a little nervously. "Thank you, Princess Elara. It is very different from Earth," she said, her voice soft but confident. She glanced around the palace, clearly taking in every detail, every shimmer of light, every strange machine that hovered silently above the floors. "You will find it more than different," Elara replied, "but I hope also welcoming." She gestured toward the palace gardens, a sprawling area filled with plants that glowed faintly in the sunlight. "Please follow me. I will show you where you will stay." As they walked, Elara watched Leora closely. The human princess was observant, cautious, but also curious. She noticed the small details, the way the walls seemed to hum, the patterns of the garden paths, the colors of alien flowers that changed depending on sunlight. Elara felt a small warmth in her chest. Perhaps humans were more adaptable than her empire believed. Their first days were filled with introductions, tour, and lessons in etiquette. Leora learned how to use the palace's transport systems, how to communicate respectfully with Vyrlian officials, and how to navigate the palace's intricate social rules. Elara stayed close, guiding her friend through each situation, subtly steering her away from uncomfortable encounters or hidden traps. One evening, as the two princesses walked through the glowing gardens, Leora spoke quietly. "Elara, I feel like everyone is watching me. I know they mean well, but it's overwhelming." Elara nodded, understanding more than she could say. "I know," she said. "It is not easy being the first human here in such a formal role, but you are not alone. I will help you." Leora smiled, relief spreading across her face. "Thank you. I don't know anyone here. I thought humans were weak, maybe unimportant, but you've treated me as a person, not a guest." Elara hesitated. She wanted to tell Leora the truth, that she had discovered the secret plot, but she knew it was too soon. She needed to protect Leora without alarming her, to teach her trust slowly. "You will find that not all of Vyrlia thinks as some do," Elara said carefully. "Some of us see value beyond power or strategy." Days passed, and the bond between the two princesses grew. They shared stories of their worlds. Leora spoke of Earth, its oceans, forests, and mountains, its diversity of people and ideas. Elara spoke of Violia, its inventions, its traditions, and the burdens of being part of the royal family. They laughed at small cultural misunderstandings and marveled at each other's worlds. Yet, the threat lingered. Elara continued her quiet investigations, uncovering more details about the faction that wanted to control Leora. They were careful, hiding their plans behind layers of official duties and protocols. Elara realized that simply hiding Leora was not enough. She needed to be proactive, to think ahead, and to teach Leora to navigate these subtle dangers herself. One afternoon, as they walked along a balcony overlooking the city, Leora noticed a group of officials whispering and glancing toward them. "Elara, are they talking about me?" she asked nervously. Elara's gaze followed theirs. She studied their posture, their expressions, the tiny gestures that revealed suspicion or planning. "They are curious," she said carefully. "And curiosity can turn into fear, but do not worry, I am here, we will be careful and we will be ready." Leora took a deep breath and nodded. "I trust you." Those words settled in Elara's heart. Trust. A human's trust was not given lightly, and now Leora had given it to her. She felt the weight of responsibility more strongly than ever. This was no longer just about diplomacy. It was about protecting someone who believed in her. Their days were soon filled with practical lessons as well. Elara taught Leora how to interpret Violian customs, how to read subtle expressions, and how to use technology in ways that might prevent misunderstandings. Leora proved to be quick and inventive. She noticed patterns that even Elara had overlooked and suggested solutions that made their daily routines smoother. One evening, as they practiced navigating the palace's holographic map system, Leora said, "You know, humans are good at noticing details that others might miss. Maybe that's why the Empire thinks we are unpredictable. We see things differently." Elara smiled. And sometimes seeing things differently is exactly what is needed. She realized then that humans were not weak. They were clever, adaptable, and full of unexpected strengths. As the first part of their friendship deepened, a small, simple act sealed their bond. Elara found Leora one night quietly sitting on the balcony looking at the twin moons. Leora seemed lost in thought. "Leora," Elara said softly, "what troubles you?" I feel small here," Leora admitted. "Everything is so vast, so powerful, I am not sure I belong." "You belong because you are brave enough to be here," Elara said gently. "Because you try, because you are not afraid to be yourself, even in a place that expects perfection." Leora turned to her and smiled. "I wish everyone here thought like you." "Maybe not everyone will," Elara replied, "but we will face them together, and we will show them that trust and friendship matter more than fear and control." That night, Elara returned to her private chambers, her mind racing with plans and possibilities. Protecting Leora would not be easy. The Empire was vast, its power immense, and its traditions rigid. But for the first time, Elara felt that she had a purpose beyond duty, something that came from the heart. She looked out at the glowing city below, thinking of the human princess sleeping safely in her palace room. She made a silent promise. No matter what the Empire demanded, she would protect Leora. And in doing so, she would defy expectations, challenge old rules, and perhaps begin to change her own world. The bond between the alien princess and the human princess was fragile but real, a spark of trust and courage in a world full of rules. And as the night stretched across Violia, that spark glimmered, promising adventure, friendship, and the challenges yet to come. The days in the palace passed quickly for Princess Leora, yet each day brought new lessons, surprises, and challenges. Elara stayed close, guiding her through a world that was dazzling, strange, and sometimes intimidating. Though Leora was learning quickly, she still felt a sense of isolation. The Violian officials watched her with careful eyes, always analyzing her reactions, her words, and her gestures. Even the smallest mistake could be interpreted as ignorance or disrespect. Elara recognized this pressure. She had felt it herself as a child, growing up under the constant gaze of the Empire. Yet now she had a purpose beyond her own comfort. Protecting Leora was no longer just a choice. It was a mission, and it gave her a sense of freedom she had never known. She could act not for duty, but for friendship. One morning, Elara took Leora to the palace archives, a vast library of holographic texts, historical records, and diplomatic files. The walls seemed alive with information, shimmering with knowledge from thousands of years. Leora's eyes widened in awe. This is incredible, she whispered. All this knowledge, all these histories, I've never seen anything like it. Ilara smiled. It is the foundation of our empire, she said, but knowledge is only useful if it is understood and applied. That is what I want to show you, how to see patterns, understand situations, and make careful decisions. For the next several hours, they explored the archives. Ilara showed Leora how to find relevant information quickly, how to interpret coded messages, and how to notice when something seemed unusual. Leora was quick to pick up the skills. She noticed a strange repetition in the records of past diplomatic missions with humans, small incidents that hinted at misunderstandings that could have been prevented. Look, Leora said, pointing at a holographic display, these mistakes seem small, but they cause distrust between our people and yours. If someone had seen the pattern, these problems could have been avoided. Ilara leaned closer. Exactly. You see things differently because you are human. That perspective is valuable. Sometimes the smallest observation can prevent a large conflict. The lesson extended beyond history. Ilara also wanted Leora to understand the subtleties of Virelian culture. She introduced her to customs that seemed trivial but carried great meaning. The way to greet someone depending on their rank, the correct response to a ceremonial question, and the subtle signals that indicated approval or disapproval. Leora struggled at first. She had grown up in a world where gestures and titles were far simpler, but she was determined, asking questions and observing carefully. Ilara found herself impressed. Humans, she realized, were patient and persistent, able to adapt quickly when motivated. Their lessons were not confined to the palace. Ilara arranged excursions to the city, giving Leora the chance to observe ordinary Virelians in their daily lives. They visited markets where alien merchants traded glowing fruits and technological devices, public squares where citizens exchanged news and ideas, and quiet parks where children practiced aerial maneuvers in hovercrafts. Leora was fascinated. She asked questions constantly, her curiosity as wide as her smile. How do they make the plants glow? She asked, pointing to a series of vines that shimmered softly. They are genetically engineered to respond to light and energy, Ilara explained. It is a combination of science and artistry. And the children with the hovercrafts, they can do that safely? Leora asked. Yes, Ilara replied. We teach them to control technology carefully. It is part of growing up in Virelia. During these outings, Ilara also taught Leora how to read people. She showed her the slight shifts in posture that indicated discomfort, the way a hand moved when someone was hiding their true feelings, and the tone changes that signaled caution or suspicion. Leora absorbed these lessons eagerly. One afternoon, as they walked through a quiet park, Leora asked a question that made Ilara pause. Ilara, why are some people so suspicious of me? Why does the Empire not fully trust humans? Ilara considered her words carefully. The Empire fears what it does not understand. Humans are different, and difference can be frightening to some. But fear is not the same as truth. Not all of Virelia thinks this way, just as not all humans are the same. It is important to see individuals, not just categories. Leora nodded. I think I understand. You see me not just because I am human, but because of who I am. Ilara smiled softly. Yes, and that is why I protect you. Not because you are important to the Empire, but because you are important to me. Their friendship strengthened as they continued their lessons and outings. They laughed over minor mistakes, such as Leora accidentally greeting a high-ranking official incorrectly, or Ilara misjudging the human way of expressing humor. Each mistake was a learning opportunity, and each success built trust between them. Yet the shadow of the secret plot remained. Ilara continued to investigate quietly, using her growing knowledge of the Empire and the city to anticipate any potential danger. She realized that protecting Leora required not just physical safety, but also understanding political maneuvering and social expectations. She had to anticipate moves before they happened. One evening, as the twin moons of Virelia rose over the city, Ilara and Leora sat on a balcony, overlooking the glowing skyline. Leora looked out at the city, her eyes thoughtful. I sometimes feel like I am on the edge of everything, she said softly. Like one wrong step could ruin everything, Ilara nodded. It can feel that way, but courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting even when you are afraid. You have already shown that every day. Leora turned to her, a small smile forming. I think I am learning. Not just about Virelia, but about myself, about being brave in ways I never knew I could be. Ilara reached out and gently touched her hand. And I am learning, too, about humans, about friendship, about what it means to act with heart instead of just duty. Their quiet conversation was interrupted by a small incident that tested their lessons. A group of young Virelians approached them in the park, curious about the human princess. Their questions were polite but pointed, testing Leora's knowledge of Virelian culture. Leora answered carefully, sometimes hesitating but always respectfully. Ilara watched, proud of how Leora handled herself. One of the young Virelians asked a question that could have been tricky. Do humans really understand our customs, or do you merely imitate what you see? Leora paused, then replied honestly. I am learning, I may make mistakes, but I am trying to understand. That is the best any of us can do. The group exchanged looks, impressed by her honesty. Ilara smiled. Leora's courage and sincerity had turned a potential awkward situation into a moment of respect. Days later, Ilara arranged for Leora to attend a formal ceremony with her. It was a gathering of the Empire's advisors, scientists, and diplomats, and humans rarely attended. Leora was nervous, unsure of what to expect. You will do fine, Ilara said. Remember what you have learned, observe, listen, and respond with honesty. That is all anyone can ask of you. The ceremony began. Leora moved carefully, greeting officials with the proper gestures, answering questions with thoughtfulness, and observing subtle interactions. Ilara stayed nearby, ready to guide her if needed. During the event, a small misunderstanding arose. An advisor asked Leora a complex question about Virelian history. Leora hesitated, then gave her honest answer, admitting she did not know the full details. Ilara noticed the slight surprise among the advisors, but also saw respect growing in their eyes. Honesty, after all, was valued highly in Virelia. After the ceremony, Ilara and Leora walked through the gardens. Leora's face was bright with excitement. That was amazing. I think some of them actually respected me. Ilara laughed softly. You did well. Your honesty and curiosity are your strengths. Remember them. The two princesses spent long evenings discussing their observations, analyzing interactions, and planning their next steps. They became a team, each learning from the other. Ilara gained insights into human creativity and adaptability, while Leora learned to navigate a complex world with intelligence and patience. One night, as they sat together under the soft glow of the moons, Leora turned to Ilara. Do you ever wonder if humans and Virelians could really work together, not just as allies but as equals? Ilara's gaze met hers. I do, and I think it is possible, but it will take courage, understanding, and persistence. That is why we must start small. By learning from each other, by trusting each other, and by showing others that cooperation is stronger than fear. Leora smiled, feeling a warmth she had never known. Then let's start, Ilara, let's show them. And so their days continued. They trained, explored, and observed. They shared stories of their worlds, laughed at cultural mishaps, and celebrated small victories. Every step brought them closer, not just as allies, but as friends who trusted each other deeply. In the heart of the glowing Virelian city, two princesses from different worlds were learning a simple but powerful truth: that understanding, trust, and cooperation could overcome fear, prejudice, and expectation. And though the Empire still held secrets and the future remained uncertain, Ilara and Leora were ready to face it together. One lesson, one moment, and one act of courage at a time. The weeks passed, and Leora grew more confident in her surroundings. She moved through the palace with ease, greeting officials, and attending ceremonies with a poise she had never imagined herself having. Ilara watched her with pride. The human princess had adapted to Virelian life far more quickly than most expected. Yet the Empire's undercurrents had not vanished. There were still whispers, subtle looks, and careful questions. Some factions remained wary of humans and had begun to notice Ilara's protective behavior toward Leora. One morning, as they walked through the palace gardens, Ilara sensed a change in the air. A group of advisors and courtiers was gathered near a fountain, their attention unusually focused. Ilara noted their subtle glances and whispered exchanges. She recognized the signs. They were discussing Leora. Something is happening, Ilara said softly. Leora glanced at her, sensing her tension. What is it? She asked, a hint of worry in her voice. Some of the Empire's leaders are considering stricter oversight for you, Ilara explained. They believe controlling your movements could prevent problems. I do not agree, but we must be careful. Leora nodded. I trust you. What should we do? Ilara smiled faintly. We will handle it like we always do, by being smart, careful, and calm. Sometimes the best protection is thinking ahead. The very next day, an official announcement was made. Leora was to attend a formal event at the palace hall, a gathering of diplomats, scholars, and advisors. It was presented as a welcome ceremony, but Ilara knew it was a test. The faction that doubted humans wanted to see how Leora would react under scrutiny, hoping she might falter. As they prepared, Ilara helped Leora dress in formal attire, an elegant gown that shimmered softly under Violea's lights. Leora's hair was braided carefully, and her jewelry reflected the twin moons outside. She looked nervous but determined. You look confident, Ilara said gently. Remember, you are not alone. I am beside you, and that is more important than appearances or expectations. Leora smiled. Thank you, Ilara. I am ready. The hall was magnificent, filled with glowing panels, holographic decorations, and a crowd of Violean officials. The air hummed with quiet conversations and polite greetings. Leora noticed every detail, observing the subtle gestures of each person as Ilara had taught her. She saw the slight shifts in posture, the careful movements of hands, and the changes in tone that hinted at hidden thoughts. The ceremony began. Advisors and scholars approached Leora with questions about Earth, its culture, and its technology. She answered thoughtfully, using her knowledge to explain concepts clearly. Some officials were impressed by her intelligence and composure, others watched with cautious suspicion. Ilara stayed close, guiding her silently with small gestures and whispered instructions when needed. At one point, a group of diplomats presented a complex scenario involving trade and resource management between Earth and Violea. The situation was intricate, with multiple variables and hidden implications. Leora studied the scenario carefully, her mind analyzing each factor. Then she suggested a solution that balanced fairness, efficiency, and cooperation. The room fell silent for a moment. Ilara could see the surprise in the eyes of the advisors. Leora had not only answered correctly, but had done so in a way that respected both human and Violean perspectives. The murmurs of approval spread quickly, and the faction that doubted humans found themselves reconsidering their assumptions. After the ceremony, Ilara and Leora walked through the palace gardens to discuss the event. Leora's face was bright with excitement and relief. That went better than I expected, she said, still processing the reactions. Some of them actually respected my answers. Ilara nodded. You did well because you stayed true to yourself. Remember, courage and honesty are more powerful than any rule or tradition. Their calm discussion was interrupted by a subtle signal from one of Ilara's contacts in the palace, a servant who moved quietly, unseen by most. The servant handed Ilara a small holographic device, flickering with a new message. Ilara read it quickly, her eyes narrowing slightly. They are planning something, she said softly. Leora looked at her, concern flashing across her face. What do you mean? She asked. A faction within the Empire is organizing a test, a way to challenge your decisions publicly. They want to see how you react under pressure. It is not dangerous in a physical sense, but it could put you in an uncomfortable position, Ilara explained. Leora took a deep breath. Then we face it together. We can handle it. Over the next few days, Ilara prepared Leora for the challenge. They practiced responses to difficult questions, analyzed potential scenarios, and even rehearsed subtle interactions with Violean officials. Leora proved to be quick and inventive, often coming up with solutions Ilara had not considered. The day of the challenge arrived. A council meeting was convened in one of the largest halls of the palace. The lighting shimmered softly, highlighting the intricate patterns of the walls and floors. Ilara guided Leora to her seat beside the council, whispering reminders and offering small gestures of reassurance. The challenge began. Advisors presented complex problems, each designed to test Leora's understanding, judgment, and composure. Leora listened carefully, considering each question from multiple angles. She answered honestly, thoughtfully, and strategically, showing both intelligence and humility. Ilara observed closely. She saw officials shifting in their seats, impressed by Leora's quick thinking and fairness. The faction that had doubted humans grew quieter, their whispers fading into cautious silence. Leora had turned the test into an opportunity, demonstrating that humans could contribute valuable perspectives and solutions. After the challenge, Elara and Leora walked through the palace gardens again, reflecting on the day's events. Leora's face was radiant with a mix of relief and pride. "I never imagined I could handle something like that," she said. "But it feels good. I think they actually saw me for who I am, not just because I am human." Elara smiled. "You did more than that. You changed some minds today, and that is a rare and powerful thing." Their conversation was interrupted by a new development. Elara's investigations had uncovered a hidden plan within the Empire, a way to influence human diplomats subtly, using rules and traditions to limit their autonomy. It was clever, but not fair. Elara knew she had to act, but she also knew that she could not do so recklessly. She needed a strategy that would reveal the plan without creating conflict. Over the next week, Elara guided Leora through the process. They observed the palace routines, studied the advisors' behavior, and gathered information discreetly. Leora learned how to ask questions that revealed hidden motives, how to interpret subtle signals, and how to respond in ways that maintained respect while asserting her perspective. Together, they devised a plan. During the next council meeting, Leora would present a proposal that addressed the hidden agenda openly but diplomatically, showing how collaboration between humans and Virelians could benefit both sides. It was a delicate balance, but Leora was ready. The day arrived. The council convened and Leora presented her proposal. She spoke with clarity, fairness, and confidence, addressing the concerns of the faction subtly but directly. Elara watched as the officials listened, some nodding in agreement, others frowning thoughtfully. By the end, the hidden agenda had been exposed, but without conflict or anger. The council adjourned, and Elara guided Leora to a quiet garden area. Leora's face was glowing with pride and relief. "We did it," she said softly. "We handled it without anger, without fighting. Just with honesty and careful thinking." Elara nodded. "Exactly. That is the strength of humans and Virelians working together. Intelligence, trust, and fairness can overcome fear and suspicion." That evening, the two princesses sat under the soft glow of the twin moons, reflecting on the challenges they had faced. Leora spoke of her hope for the future, of the potential for humans and Virelians to cooperate and learn from each other. Elara listened, her heart filled with admiration and determination. "I never imagined that friendship could be this powerful," Elara said. "Not just between us, but as a way to change minds to show what is possible." Leora smiled. "And we will keep showing them together." In the weeks that followed, their bond deepened further. They continued to navigate the palace, meet with officials, and learn from one another. Leora became more confident, more capable, and more respected, while Elara discovered the strength of choosing heart over tradition. And so, in the glowing city of Virelia, two princesses, one alien, one human, stood together. They faced challenges, subtle tests, and cautious skepticism, but their friendship, intelligence, and courage allowed them to navigate a world full of rules, expectations, and uncertainty. They had learned to trust each other, to observe carefully, and to act thoughtfully. The Empire had begun to see that humans were not threats, that their creativity and perspective were valuable. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, Elara and Leora were ready to face it. They would continue to teach, to learn, and to show that trust and understanding could change even the most rigid traditions. The bond between the alien princess and the human princess had grown stronger than ever, a quiet but powerful force capable of bridging worlds and hearts alike. And as they looked out at the twin moons shining over the city, they knew that together they could face whatever challenges the future held. The weeks after the council meeting brought a new energy to the palace. Leora moved through her days with a quiet confidence that surprised even some of the more cautious Virelians. Her intelligence, honesty, and willingness to understand others earned her respect, while Elara remained at her side, guiding her through subtle challenges and reinforcing the lessons of patience and observation. The Empire, however, was slow to change. Old habits die hard, and whispers of doubt continued in the background. Some leaders still questioned the value of human perspectives, while others quietly admired the progress that had been made. Elara knew that true change would take time, but she also realized that small victories could create ripples larger than one might imagine. One morning, as the twin sons of Virelia bathed the palace in a golden glow, Elara found Leora standing alone on the balcony, gazing at the city below. Leora's expression was thoughtful, her mind clearly busy with plans and ideas. "Good morning," Elara said softly. "You seem deep in thought," Leora turned, smiling. "I am thinking about the future, about what humans and Virelians can do together if we truly understand one another. I want to help build that world." Elara's heart swelled with pride. "Then we shall. One step at a time, we will show them what is possible, together." Their day began with a series of meetings. Leora and Elara worked with diplomats, scholars, and advisors to propose new initiatives. Educational exchanges, collaborative projects, and cultural programs designed to foster understanding between humans and Virelians. Each suggestion was met with careful consideration, some enthusiasm, and a few skeptical glances. But the seed had been planted, and curiosity was stronger than doubt. As the day progressed, Leora and Elara navigated the intricate web of palace politics, always careful to balance respect with initiative. They met challenges with calm, reasoning through complex situations, and using the skills they had developed together. Leora's ability to see problems from a human perspective complemented Elara's deep understanding of Virelian customs, creating solutions that bridged worlds. In the afternoon, they returned to the gardens for a brief respite. The soft hum of alien plants and the gentle glimmer of light-filled leaves created a serene atmosphere. Leora sat on a bench, her thoughts clearly racing with ideas, while Elara observed her, noting the determination and creativity she displayed. "You know," Leora said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I never imagined I could have this kind of influence. I always thought humans were too small, too limited. But here, with you, I feel like I can do something meaningful." Elara smiled. "Humans have strengths the Empire has not always recognized. Courage, creativity, empathy, these are powerful tools, and you are using them wisely." Their peaceful moment was soon interrupted by a subtle disturbance. A messenger approached, bowing deeply before Elara. "Princess, there is a matter of importance. Some officials wish to discuss adjustments to the upcoming interplanetary education program." Elara took the message, reading it carefully. "It seems the program is facing resistance from a few leaders who doubt its value. They want to limit participation." She looked at Leora. "This is another test, but it is also an opportunity." Leora nodded. "Then we face it like we always have, carefully, thoughtfully, together." The meeting with the officials was tense but calm. Leora presented her arguments with clarity and fairness, showing the benefits of full participation while addressing the concerns of skeptical leaders. She emphasized collaboration, mutual respect, and long-term value, carefully avoiding confrontation while asserting the importance of inclusion. Elara observed quietly, occasionally offering a gentle reminder or a reassuring nod. Leora's approach impressed many in the room. Slowly, the hesitant officials began to see the merit in the proposal. By the end of the meeting, the program was approved with a plan for broad participation, and even the skeptics acknowledged the reasoning behind it. Afterward, Elara and Leora returned to the gardens, where the air was filled with the gentle hum of Virelian flora and the soft light of the twin moons beginning to rise. Leora's face shone with quiet triumph. "We did it," she said softly. "Without arguments, without pressure, just with thoughtfulness and honesty," Elara nodded. "That is the strength of our approach, showing what is possible through understanding, trust, and cooperation." As the days passed, the two princesses continued their work. They traveled to different areas of the Empire, meeting scholars, educators, and citizens. Everywhere they went, they demonstrated that humans were not a threat but partners, capable of contributing in meaningful ways. They shared ideas, listened to concerns, and built bridges that had never existed before. One afternoon, they visited a technological institute where young Virelians were developing new innovations. Leora was fascinated by the displays and asked questions constantly. Elara observed, noting how Leora's human perspective offered unique insights into design, efficiency, and problem-solving. The students themselves were inspired by her curiosity and intelligence. "You have a gift," Elara said quietly. "You see things that others might overlook," Leora smiled. "I am learning from you too, your knowledge of your world, your insight into people. It helps me understand more than I ever could alone." Together, they organized workshops for students, pairing Virelian and human participants. They encouraged collaboration, creativity, and mutual respect. Through games, experiments, and discussions, participants discovered new ways of thinking and problem-solving. The results were promising. Even some of the more skeptical adults began to recognize the value of human perspectives. As their influence grew, so did their friendship. They shared quiet moments of reflection in the gardens, evenings spent observing the moons, and discussions about dreams, hopes, and possibilities. Leora began to see the Empire not as a rigid, intimidating place, but as a complex world full of potential. Elara began to see humans not as fragile or unpredictable, but as resilient, creative, and courageous. One evening, as they watched the city lights shimmer beneath the twin moons, Leora spoke quietly. "Elara, do you think we can really change the Empire? Not just a little, but in a way that lasts." Elara considered the question, her gaze fixed on the glowing city below. "Change takes time, but yes, I believe we can, not with force, but with example, with intelligence, courage, and trust. If we continue to act thoughtfully, the seeds we plant will grow." Leora reached out and took Elara's hand. "Then we will do it together." The final test of their efforts came when the Emperor himself called for a private meeting. Rumors had circulated that he wished to see the progress Leora had made. Elara prepared her friend carefully, reminding her of the lessons learned: honesty, observation, respect, and calm confidence. When they entered the grand chamber, the Emperor regarded them both with curiosity. He asked questions about their initiatives, the progress of the educational program, and the cooperation between humans and Virelians. Leora answered with clarity, emphasizing collaboration, understanding, and mutual benefit. Elara watched as the Emperor's expression shifted from cautious curiosity to thoughtful approval. He asked few follow-up questions, listening carefully to Leora's reasoning and observing her sincerity. By the end of the discussion, he nodded in quiet acknowledgement. While not all prejudices vanished, the Emperor recognized that humans could be trusted allies and valuable contributors. After leaving the chamber, Elara turned to Leora, a smile of quiet pride on her face. "You did exceptionally well. The Emperor has seen your abilities, and he cannot deny the value you bring." Leora laughed softly, a sound of relief and joy. "I could not have done it without you, Elara. You guided me, taught me, and trusted me. That made all the difference." The two princesses spent the following days consolidating their progress. Programs were expanded, cultural exchanges increased, and humans gained a respected place within the Empire. Their efforts inspired others to think beyond fear and tradition, and slowly, walls built by doubt and suspicion began to crumble. One evening, as the city bathed in the soft glow of the moons, Leora and Elara stood together on the balcony of the palace. The streets below were alive with soft lights and quiet movement. Citizens went about their lives, many unaware of the subtle changes happening in their world. "Look at them," Leora said, gesturing toward the city. "They do not know what we have started, but they will feel it." "They will see what is possible," Elara nodded. "Yes, and we will continue to guide them, one step at a time, one lesson at a time. Trust and understanding will carry us further than fear ever could." Leora turned to her friend, her eyes filled with gratitude and determination. "Thank you, Elara, for believing in me, for guiding me, and for being my friend." Elara smiled, feeling a warmth she had never known before. "And thank you, Leora, for teaching me about humans, about courage, and about the power of friendship. Together, we have done more than protect each other. We have begun to change the world." As they stood side by side, the twin moons of Virelia shining above them, they knew the journey was far from over. There would be challenges ahead, misunderstandings to resolve, and new opportunities to explore. But they also knew that together, they could face anything. The bond they had forged, between an alien princess and a human princess, was stronger than fear, stronger than tradition, and powerful enough to inspire change across worlds. And so, in the quiet glow of the palace, two princesses, one alien, one human, looked toward the horizon with hope, trust, and courage. Their friendship had begun as a simple act of protection, but it had grown into something greater, a bridge between worlds, a symbol of understanding, and proof that trust, intelligence, and compassion could change even the oldest empires. They had faced subtle tests, navigated complex challenges, and built trust where there had been doubt. And now, standing together, they knew that the future belonged not to fear, but to those willing to think, to care, and to act with heart. The city hummed softly below them, alive with possibility. And for the first time, Leora and Elara felt truly free, not because the Empire had changed overnight, but because they had begun to change it, one thoughtful, courageous step at a time. The alien princess protected the human princess, defying her own empire,